Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome to my channel. This is Paint with Lovejoy. Thanks so much for joining me today. In today's painting, this is going to be an intro to watercolor series. And this is for those of you that have never picked up a brush, never tried watercolors before. I have kind of a three-layer method that I'm going to put you through. And we'll get kind of comfortable with transferring your traceable to your watercolor paper. Then we'll lay some base colors on there. Then we do an outline with brush, Sharpie marker, or a brush pen. And then we'll go back and lay on a few more colors. That way you're getting comfortable with the transparency of the paint, trying to control the water but not controlling it, and then also working on your saturation and just getting comfortable with the process of watercolors. So in this video, in the description box below, you are going to see a link to a supply kit. And those are all the supplies that I recommend to try watercolor painting, but feel free to utilize the materials that you have at home. Don't feel like you have to go buy brand new supplies unless you need to. Another thing that you're going to see is a link for a traceable. And a traceable is a way for my first time and beginner painters to get your initial image on your composition before you even start painting. And they're just a really nice way to kind of get it started. So there's a link in the description box for your traceable and also a video on how to transfer your traceable to your watercolor paper. So check those out before you jump into painting. And no matter what you paint today, please email me photos of what you paint. I really enjoy seeing what you guys create at home, and then when I share them on the social media outlets, it encourages other people to give painting a try. So I think enough talking. Let's go ahead and get started with your watercolors. All right, guys, this is going to be a fun, simple watercolor. So grab your supplies, turn on your favorite music, and as always, make sure you take your progress photos. So once you have your traceable transferred to your watercolor paper, we're going to block off a few areas that we're not going to put pigment. So I'm using a pencil, and I want you to just take it step by step, see where I place each one of these lines on each petal. And if you need to pause the video, go right ahead and do that. And we're just using the pencil to kind of block off some space, and we're not going to apply the pigment over this area. And it's just a general area, so it doesn't have to be perfect, and if you end up overlapping it later, totally okay. So now we're going to start with a light pink, so we're actually using some red pigment and a lot of water. So you'll notice with acrylic or with watercolor paint, when you add more water, then that makes it lighter. So as you work with watercolor paint, you're going to notice we're going to get into saturation. So right now we have what we call a light saturation with this light pink, and we laid that on there pretty wet, and then now we're taking more of the direct pigment, more saturated red, and placing it on top of the lighter wet pink. And this is called charging. You're charging the color. So you kind of, again, right here you can see we're laying a base of our super light pink, which is a lot of water and a little bit of pigment. And then you add a touch more pigment, there you go, for a little charging, and it blends in with the wet base. And then you can grab even more direct pigment for a bit more saturation and intensity. So we're going to take this kind of petal by petal, and like I said earlier, feel free to utilize the pause section. So maybe do one petal, pause it, do it on yours, and then pick up the video for the next petal. But take it at your pace. And this is something that just play with. You're kind of learning to control and not control water. And you're also learning about saturation. So right here where there's a lot of pigment, and I'm grabbing that direct color, that's a lot of saturation. And then as you either add more water or you just keep putting it, that pigment in various locations, it starts diffusing and getting lighter and lighter. So as you're working with watercolor paint, and if you grab the pigment directly, just know that that's going to be your highest saturation, and then it starts diffusing as you apply it in more spaces. And remember to breathe. You're doing a great job, and we're just taking this step by step. And this could be something that you paint multiple times and you get a little bit more comfortable with each time. All right, so again, you can see where I just basically laid a base of the light pink again and then charged it with more of the darker saturated pigment. And if you even want to switch out colors, if you prefer to do a blue or a purple rose or even white, feel free to switch it out. I'm just using basically one color for the rose on this demo. But trust your instincts when you're working with watercolor paint. Like, I highly encourage my students to go back to just being 5 years old. Just have fun, play. You're learning what saturation is. You're learning what wet on wet blending is. You're learning to control your brush. So you're taking in a lot of information right now. So be kind to yourself as you're learning something new, but also learn to kind of play and go, ooh, that was fun. Ooh, let's try this color. Oh, try this. So enjoy the process. This is not about perfection. This is about just stepping away from the world for a little bit while you create and turn a blank white surface of this paper into something different. And hopefully while you're painting, the rest of the world just ceases to exist for a little bit. And that is the best part of painting. So again, here, as we get to the lower and bigger petals, you can see I just laid that base and then went in with a little more pigment and then went in with the direct pigment for the charging for the darkest areas. Now, this wet on wet blending method is very popular and it is a lot of fun. So like I said earlier, don't be afraid to do this painting multiple times. Each one will be unique and different unto itself, and the more that you paint, the more you're going to learn. And as you're watching the video, you are strengthening your power of observation. You're looking to see what I do on the video, and then you're kind of pausing the video and mimicking that to the best of your ability at home. So the more that you strengthen your power of observation, the more you'll see it show up in your life for your job, but you'll also see it show up when you create more. You'll become more and more observant the more that you paint. And those are just good life skills to have. So here I'm kind of done with the flower, but going back and just doing more charging, grabbing pigment directly from, grabbing pigment directly from the little watercolor cake on the container and going back and applying it. Now, as the paper starts to dry, you can go back and kind of soften some of the lines. I basically have a clean brush right now with just a little bit of water on it. And where there's kind of a solid line and I want a little more blending, I'm just basically light pressure, just going right over that edge. And because we're on watercolor paper, it kind of helps move the water along, diffuse it, and do a little bit of blending. So again, just kind of play with this, enjoy the process. Your brain's taking in a lot of information. And when we do the black outline, that's what gives it kind of that bold look to the composition. All right, so just adding a few more red pigments. There we go. Good place to pause the video and take your progress photo. So now what we're going to do is basically lay a base of water on our paper. So I did let the paper, the rose, dry for probably about 10 or 15 minutes. And then now I'm going in with just water, going on the perimeter of the rose. And I'm being very generous with the amount of water. And when we add the pigment, you'll see why. So just like when we laid that light pink, we're laying the base of water right now, and then we'll drop some pigment in there. And this is, again, the wet on wet blending method and one of the more favorite aspects of watercolor paint. So you can see where I grabbed the teal and literally just kind of putting it in where I placed the water, and you'll see that it starts to diffuse. And same thing as when we were working on the flower. When you grab your pigment, that's going to be your most saturated spot. And then as you keep applying more pigment, it starts getting lighter and lighter. So I usually, when I first grab pigment, I like to put it in the place where I want it the darkest and then start going backwards from there. So you can see here where I'm putting it pretty thick in a few key areas, and this is giving us nice dimension. And you'll see that where it starts to diffuse in with the water. And if you need to, you can go back and grab some water and just kind of play with moving that into that water base. Again, Again, watercolors are not something to be crazy scared of. Just have fun, play. It's more important about the process of just physically painting rather than being picture perfect with your results. So I'm really proud of you for painting at home. And as you're looking at your painting, if you want pigment somewhere where I do not put it, go right ahead. If you want to introduce another color, if you want some purples in your background, go right ahead and do that. All right, so take another progress photo. I want you to fully let this completely dry before you move into your black outlines. And again, you can reference the Traceable for the black outline. And as you're working with the brush, play with your pressure. A light pressure is going to be a skinny line. More pressure is going to be a wider line. And in the video, I am using an India ink brush pen. There is a link in the description box for the supplies, and that will be included in that. If you don't have a brush pen, a regular brush and black paint work just the same. So again, we're basically going over the exact lines on that Traceable, painting right on top of the watercolor. And it is kind of nice that this gives it, this kind of defines our composition and cleans it up a little bit. So remember to breathe. You will notice that you're holding your breath without realizing it. And if you're finding that your brush is kind of shaky as you go to make each mark, that means you're holding your breath. So exhale as you touch the brush to the canvas, and that will be a little bit easier. You're doing a great job. Takes a lot of courage to paint at home, and watercolors I know are kind of intimidating, so I'm really proud of you for not letting that affect you and still take time to paint. So those were the little leaves. We're going to go back and add some more colors in the next step, some blues and some greens, and then that will be our final. So with this 3-layer kind of watercolor approach that I'm teaching, we do basically our base under layer, then we'll do our black outlines, and then we just go back and basically kind of intensify the shadows a little bit more. So now I'm going to be grabbing green and adding a little bit of water, so kind of going for a bit of a medium green. And this is closer to like a sap green, but if you've got a different shade, totally okay. And again, being kind of generous with the application and the amount of pigment I'm putting on there. All right, and then clean the brush out. Now we're going to go to blue, and we're going to place this right on top of the green, and you can see where it mixes and changes colors. Again, this is called wet on wet blending. And now we're going to purple, and we're going to go back into our flower and just kind of putting this in a few key places where it is the darkest. And you'll see, depending on how wet or dry your paper still is, you'll see how it interacts with the pigment a little bit different. And with it being watercolor paint and transparent, by putting this purple on top of the red, it's giving us kind of a warm purple hue to it and intensifying our contrast. If you're inclined to do this with a different color or even add other colors that I'm not adding to the rose right now, full permission, go right ahead and do that. As you paint, I want you to trust your instincts. Your instincts are naturally guiding you in the direction you need to go for your creative efforts. So trust that and just have fun. So great job today, you guys. Keep up with your painting practice. Find creative outlets on a regular basis. And thanks for hanging out with me today. You guys did awesome. And send your photos of what you create to paintwithlovejoy@gmail.com. I really like seeing your guys' work. Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed the process of the watercolor painting, and I hope you will do it again. This particular medium only gets better with more practice. It's very overwhelming to kind of take in all the pigment, the saturation, the water, the blending, but the more you do it, the easier it gets. So paint this again, try another watercolor painting, try something else, but please keep coming back to it and watching your skills grow. As you are uploading your photos and images to social media, please tag me @paintwithlovejoy or email me your photos, paintwithlovejoy@gmail.com. Like I said earlier, I really enjoy seeing your guys' pictures. Make sure you share this with your community, encourage more people to paint. It does make for more stress-relieved people and hopefully a nicer society, so I want more and more people painting. If you have any comments, suggestions, things you want me to paint in the future, leave a comment below. I try to get to all the comments and reply within a couple of days of your comment. So let me know what you want in the future. And I think that takes care of it. So I hope you guys have a great day. Thanks for taking time out of your day to paint with me. And until next time, cheers.